What's included in an Agents of Change study group? Our twice-monthly study groups include testing strategies, easy-to-remember tips, and practice questions. Let's jump into a recent study group and show you how we make studying for the ASWB exam easy.
So this test, what do you need to know about it? No matter what level you're taking, whether that be the bachelor's, master's, or clinical, there's going to be 3 types of questions. You'll just see more different types of questions depending on the level. So if you are taking the bachelor's, you will see mostly recall questions. These are questions that require you to remember a fact or a piece of information. They're pretty straightforward, right? And these are just, you have a question, maybe it's a medication question or defense mechanism question, you answer and you move on. Bachelor's will be very heavy in this. Master's and clinical, you'll have very few recall questions. So that's why content's not enough. When you're studying for this exam, you have to be able to take that information and apply it. So then we have application questions. And what are application questions? These are going to take that recall knowledge to the next level. So not only do you have to recall information, but you have to be able to apply it in a case scenario. So it might give you a little vignette or talk about a client that you might have. And you need to know more than just a definition. You're starting to use some of those higher level thinking skills. Reasoning. These are going to be on the master's and clinical level exam. You will see a lot of reasoning questions on the clinical level exam.
Now, let's talk more about ASWB strategy. Here's how Agents of Change dives into key strategies you need to know for test day.
All twice. Why is that? The first time through, you might miss information. The second time through, you're going to get more information. Read all answers before starting to think about choosing an answer. Some people like to jump ahead. They like to get excited and, they might say, oh, I know the answer is B. One word could change an entire answer here. So you want to make sure that you are reading all of your answer choices and thinking about them before jumping to an answer. 2023 is when the 3 answer choices rolled out. So if you are taking it now forward, you will see 3 and 4 answer choices. Okay. Eliminate answers that are too extreme or do not answer the question stem. So what does this mean? For example, if it said, I'll give you an example of what too extreme would be. If you got a question that said you had a child come into school building with a bruise. An answer that is too extreme would be to call the police, right? If a child comes in with a bruise, many children come in, we don't have any additional information at this point that would say that the child is in imminent danger. So too extreme, you want to rule those out, and process of elimination. The more you can rule out, the easier it's going to be for you to answer. Okay. And then this is really hard if you've been in the field for a while. You don't want to add any information into the question stem. The words are the words that they give you.
Do you know the helping process? It's a critical part of the ASWB exam. Agents of Change can help you learn this process and apply it in study groups.
Long-term planning. Okay, so I have a video on YouTube about the helping process. But quickly, engagement is that first session. You're building rapport with the clients. You are going over consent. You are going over confidentiality. Do not move to the assessment phase with a client until you have informed consent. You have to have informed consent to move on. And you're building rapport in the engagement phase. And the purpose of engagement is we want our clients to come back. Okay. We've engaged them. We've gotten their consent. We're building that rapport. We're moving to the assessment phase, and all assessment means is you're collecting information about what's going on for that client, right? It could be the presenting problem. It could be developmental history. It could be a biopsychosocial, a social history. Every agency, every setting is going to have a little bit of a different procedure for assessment. Okay. You've engaged, you've assessed, you've collected information. You found out what the presenting problem is, then you need to work on planning, right? What are you going to do in treatment with the client to work towards their goals? So planning is usually treatment planning. You want to make sure this is done in conjunction with the client as much as possible, because we don't want to just dictate and say, this is the plan and this is what you're going to do. In the chat, why is planning with the client so important? Why do we want to have their buy-in for this process? Self-determination, absolutely. We don't want to have that position of power where we're telling them what to do. We meet the client where they are. Mutually agreed upon, buy-in, motivation, right? I don't know about you, I would not be very motivated if someone was just telling me this is how things are going to go, right? We want to empower them. So we're definitely working from a strengths-based empowerment model, patient-centered. Okay, so we've engaged our client, we've assessed, we know the problem, we've treatment planned. Next, you're going to move into the bulk of the work you're going to do, that's intervention. And that's when you're actually doing whatever it is you plan for. So that might be cognitive behavioral therapy or mindfulness or DBT. The intervention is doing the actual work. From there, in a perfect world, right? Like they're meeting their goals, everything's going great. The next step is evaluation. It's listed as the second to last step, but really you need to be taking data at all points throughout the process, right? We know the code of ethics says that we have to be data informed, and evaluation means, are you taking information in? This could be a variety of things. This could be screeners, this could be observations, it could be self-reports, but is the client making progress towards their treatment goals? So we are evaluating for progress in the evaluation stage. And then the last stage is termination. And all that means is you are ending the therapeutic relationship.
In each study group, we break down ASWB practice questions, empowering you with the strategies to succeed on test day. Let's see an example.
Consists of a mother, father, and 2 children ages 14 and 8. The parents report they want the family to spend quality time together, but whenever they try, everyone ends up fighting. The 14-year-old daughter looks visibly annoyed and states her parents treat her like a baby. The 8-year-old says he wants to play with kids in the neighborhood and go to his friend's house, but his parents say family time at home is more important. The social worker should focus treatment on, and if you've been coming to study groups, we've used this example before, but this has a lot of information in it, right? It's a family. There's a teenager, an 8-year-old, and they're just not really communicating in a way that's helpful. That's probably why they're coming to see us in family therapy. So throughout these 5 W's, we're going to use this information to pull apart and synthesize. So our first W is our who. In this stem, who is our client? That's what the who means. Who is your client? Is it an individual client? Is it a couple, or is it a family? Is it a group here? Our client is the family system. They're here for family therapy, right? We're not treating each one individually, family as a unit. We know the family unit consists of a mother, father, and 2 children, and it gives us the ages of the children. Age matters because we know there's developmental milestones that everyone meets at certain times. So by telling us that there's a 14-year-old, we know like what developmentally we should expect of a 14-year-old, right? Adolescent, peer pressure, wanting to be with friends, defiance against family. And then we know the other child is 8, school aged, wanting to be with friends, right? Starting to gain independence. So age matters. And also age can be a good indicator of if the child is within what we would expect to be developmentally appropriate. For example, if it said you are seeing a 14-year-old and they're having regression with their toileting skills, that's going to be a major red flag because we would assume a 14-year-old teenager has mastered toilet skills. So we don't know, sometimes we're not going to have all the information, right? We don't know how old the mother and father is. So we don't have that information. But who is our client? This family unit, mom, dad, and the children. We know the children's ages. So that's our who for this one. The what. Here's the 3 questions you want to consider when you're figuring out what the what of a question is. What is the presenting problem? What is the question asking? What does the social worker need to do? So here, what is the problem? Parents are coming and bringing the whole family to therapy, which means they need some sort of help, right? They wouldn't be coming to us if they didn't need some sort of help. So here I would say the presenting problem is there's some sort of breakdown in communication or expectations, right? Parents want to spend quality time, but kids are not really feeling that. They're not interested in that right now. And there's some conflict, right? That when they do sit down to have this family time, there's disagreement or conflict. It says they end up fighting. So the family time is not what they envisioned. So that would be the presenting problem. What is the question asking? It's saying, what should we focus treatment on? So that's basically saying, what do you do with this information? And then what does the social worker need to do? Here we need to take all of this information, put it together, and work with the family unit towards a goal. We're not saying I'm going to do this for the kid, I'm going to do this for the mom and dad. Family as a unit, how do we get them towards goals together? So that's something that's very different than individual therapy or a variety of things. Family therapy, I don't know if any of you do family therapy, but I think it is the most amazing skill if you can be a very skilled family therapist, just because it's very tough work. You're bringing together lots of personalities and doing a lot of communication work. So we have our who, we have our what, where. And you might think where, what that seems like an odd piece of evidence, but where is really like, what setting are you in as the social worker? So are you a hospital social worker? Are you a school social worker? Are you a hospice social worker? Are you in person? Are you, I mean, we know social work is so diverse, so we could be at so many different places. And that's why this test can be really challenging. In school and in our careers, we usually specialize, right? We're probably like maybe school social workers or hospital or clinical or macro, but this exam is generalist. So you kind of have to have some knowledge on all of the different settings. So where are you? And setting does matter, because what you would do in a hospital and the ER is very different than what you would do in private practice, right? So think of that. And then where is the client? Is the client physically with you? Is the client on the phone? Is the client at school? Is the client in the hospital? That matters too. Here, notice there's no where. We don't know the setting and we don't know where the client is. So sometimes you're not going to have all of the pieces of the 5 W's, right? It doesn't mean that that's a bad question or a good question. It just means we don't have that piece of information. Sometimes it might matter, sometimes it might not matter. So we don't have the where here. We don't know what setting we're in. We just know that we're providing family therapy of some sort. We don't know where. Okay. There is not a default setting, because, right, we can just assume they're coming to services. That could be virtually, that could be in person. They're engaging in services. So that's that information there. We don't have a default. Okay. So the when is really time sensitive. So when you get the when, time. When did you meet the client? So think of that helping process. When did symptoms occur? And when did the presenting problem start? So here, where do you think in that helping process we would be if we are just collecting information from the family? Go ahead in the chat. What would be the when for this? Definitely the beginning phases. We're either engaging or we're assessing. First, we're definitely not intervening yet. We don't have enough information. We're in those beginning stages, either engagement or assessment, somewhere in there. When did symptoms occur? It doesn't really say, right? We don't know if this has been a problem for 5 years or 5 weeks. So we don't have that information, and we don't know when the presenting problem started, but it obviously started before they came to us, which is why they came to us. So it's been happening for some amount of time. Sometimes it will be specific. It might say they've had symptoms for 6 months, or they've had symptoms for 3 weeks. When you get to the clinical level and you have to diagnose based on DSM, we know that time frame matters, right? Because certain diagnosis you need to have for certain lengths of time. Okay, so we have our who, our what, our where, our when. The last W is our hardest one, and that is our why. Why is the why the hardest? Critical thinking. We have to take all of the information that we have and put it all together. So why is the help of a social worker needed? And why are these clues presented, right? Is it a distractor? Is it important? You're really critically thinking here. So let's analyze this one particularly. Why is the help of a social worker needed? Because there's some sort of communication breakdown, right? They need some skills, or they are working towards a solution. So social worker is needed to help this family with their communication. That's why they're here. This is some clues that give us information that there's a breakdown. 14-year-old stating her parents treat her like a baby, and the 8-year-old wanting to play with friends. That would show us that there's some sort of disconnect between the parents' expectations and what is developmentally appropriate for the children, right? Parent expectations could be the why too. Maybe they're not realistic expectations. Maybe they're not connecting with their parents. Maybe they need some psychoeducation around what happens in adolescence and childhood. So there's a variety of different things. And why is this information important? Why are they here to see us? Because like I said, there's some sort of communication breakdown. Expectations they're not on the same page. That's mostly why people come to family therapy, right? Not on the same page, want to have family time that's quality, and it works for everyone. I'm going to stop sharing here. I want to thank you all for this amazing study group. We had over 350 people. That's absolutely amazing. I hope that you will check out some of the awesome stuff we have coming out for the rest of the month of March. And I will say Agents of Change has something for everyone. We have free, we have paid, like you will find something that you can utilize.
We hope you enjoyed this study group preview from Agents of Change. All Agents of Change packages include 2 live study groups per month. Learn more at agentsofchangeprep.com.